Story 1. Most municipal water supplies in the United States, especially in Florida and New Orleans, are of poor quality. I work in the industry and it is terrible. Story 2. The Florida citrus industry, specifically oranges, is facing a serious threat. A fungus is spreading and infecting groves across the state. Unfortunately, there is no way to kill the fungus. The only solution is to cut down all citrus trees within a certain radius of an infected tree. Many farmers are choosing to sell their farms rather than start over. Story 3. The Colorado River is the main water supply for 3 states with major cities. Story 4. Factual information on the internet. There is a large amount of artificial intelligence-created content that is being taken as fact and used as the basis for new articles and content. Sifting through information to validate it is already too much effort for many and will only become more difficult. Story 5. Publicly traded companies are constantly saying, "We did good, not great. More money next quarter." Then, "Oh, that's good, not great. Even more money next quarter." In the 4 years I have been with my company, my production quota has tripled, and it is unsustainable. Every quarter has to make more money than the last. Otherwise, it is failing. This is true for almost every single publicly traded company. Corners are being cut, profits maximized, and employees compromised. This is happening endlessly. Story 6. Literally all infrastructure in North America. The majority of underground infrastructure, including pipes, water lines, and sewer systems, has been completely ignored in terms of maintenance and budgeting for asset replacement. There are towns with upcoming bills ranging from tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, not even mentioning larger cities, that have saved approximately 0% of the required amount by constantly extending the estimated lifetime of the assets. Many bills are coming due shortly if the engineering estimates are accurate, and very few towns have saved anything for this scenario. We are living in a world where no one wants to be the person to say that we need to save money for long-term planning. Instead, everyone hopes things do not fail while they are leading, so they can pass the responsibility to others. Story 7. The Ogallala Aquifer. Kansas and Nebraska are known for vast fields of wheat and corn. They achieve this by drilling wells into one of the world's largest aquifers deep beneath the Midwest. There is not enough consistent rainfall in these areas to support all the crops, so groundwater makes up the difference. However, the aquifer is being depleted and cannot be replenished quickly. Once it is drained, it will lead to a Dust Bowl scenario and no more large-scale farming in the Midwest. Story 8. The Garisenda is one of 2 remaining 12th-century towers in Bologna, Italy. I saw it in April. It looks quite unstable, to be honest. The area is blocked off by some shipping containers because the tower is probably going to fall any day. There seem to be some half-hearted restoration attempts, but I have no idea what their plan is. Story 9. Personally, I live in a city called Lowell, Massachusetts. There is the Rourke Bridge, built 40 years ago as a temporary structure. It reminds me of the dangerous bridges seen over rivers in Siberia or Central Asia. It is loud and bumpy, and you can feel the whole thing sway because 25,000 cars cross it every day. You can actually walk under it since there is a riverwalk pathway that connects to it. You can see rusted sections rotting away. About 6 months ago, a truck crossed it and a panel on the surface somehow lifted into the gas tank. The truck made it across but lost probably 80 to 100 gallons of diesel onto the bridge and into the river below. The river has a marshy, swampy area near the bridge where you could see the fuel slick collecting. I can't imagine much survived underneath. Many fish eggs and small aquatic animals likely died there. The city, state, and federal authorities have known the bridge needs replacement for decades and are aware of the rust and rot. But they continue to say it will last for now. Don't they always say that? There is a plan to build a new one next to it, but it won't be completed until 2028, which likely means delays into 2029 or 2030. I honestly don't think it will last that long. Story 10. I do not know, but every time I go to a drugstore, it feels like we lost a war. Story 11. Without human intervention, your local energy grid is only about 6 to 24 hours away from complete collapse, depending on how greedy the utility company is in terms of automatic backups. The electricity grid will likely fail first, within hours. Other energy sources like city heat or natural gas will take longer because they rely less on active human inputs. You may remember in the television show The Last of Us, how Nick Offerman is in a Home Depot when the power goes out, and he remarks, "That was fast." That scene was much more accurate than anyone not involved in utilities would expect. Story 12. The food chain. I am still amazed that no one is talking about the fact that insect biomass has declined by approximately 47% and abundance declined by approximately 61.5% over the last 35 years. In some areas, a 75% decline has been measured in a single generation. This insect apocalypse is very bad. Do not just take my word for it. Indeed, most biologists agree that the world has entered its sixth mass extinction event, the first since the end of the Cretaceous period 66 million years ago, when more than 80% of all species, including the non-avian dinosaurs, perished. Story 13. We are losing bees at an alarming rate. As far as important species go, bees are at the top of the list. They are critical pollinators. They pollinate 70 of the approximately 100 crop species that feed 90% of the world. Honeybees are responsible for $30 billion a year in crops. When bees are gone, we will shortly follow. Story 14. There is a waste product from burning coal called fly ash. It is used in concrete to improve quality and reduce cost. However, new coal power plants are no longer being built, and existing ones are shutting down. This makes sourcing fly ash increasingly difficult. If it must be sourced from distant locations, such as China, transportation costs eliminate the savings. Concrete can be made with just cement and added chemicals, but this is more expensive. In 10 years, fly ash may no longer be used at all. This is a minor issue that will have far-reaching consequences. Architects and engineers will likely seek ways to reduce concrete use in buildings as costs rise. This change may not affect residential construction but will impact large urban architecture. Story 15. Honestly, the education system feels like it is barely holding on. Story 16. A lot of subscription services, not just streaming services but large corporate software subscriptions, are facing a real panic. I work in technology, and many companies built their entire network and service at a loss. They funneled hundreds of thousands of investor dollars into a product with the idea that they would raise the price later and make it all back after gaining a foothold. However, the cost of running a live service program is much higher than just selling a license and letting people install the program and use it locally. You need servers and virtual machines, not to mention the difference in person hours between occasional software updates for regular software and a live service. So not only do they have to recoup their initial losses, they also need to generate enough revenue to maintain the service. These companies expand as far as they can, reaching every possible customer. They follow their plan and increase the price once they have dedicated users, but it is not enough. There simply are not enough customers to generate the revenue needed to repay loans and run the company. Either the product is too niche, there is too much competition, or in some cases, the product is sold to all potential customers and still does not generate enough income to cover losses. By the time companies realize this, they try raising prices again, but at this point, another company is likely in the lose money to get customers phase, doing the same thing. Rapid price increases breach customer trust, causing existing customers to leave and resulting in even less revenue. Many companies jumped on the software as a service model that was highly successful for Microsoft and Adobe. However, these companies already had substantial financial resources to support initial losses. Smaller companies do not have this advantage, but the model appeared so lucrative and easy that thousands of companies are slowly hemorrhaging themselves trying to replicate it. Story 17. The Los Angeles court reporter system, along with many other county services such as the health department, is facing challenges. Several county information technology systems could be added to that list. Court reporters went home in 2020, and most of them never returned. There is such high demand for court reporters that they now start at $100,000 a year with signing bonuses. However, they still cannot hire enough qualified people. Court reporters are a very important part of the justice system in Los Angeles. Many courts do not allow electronic recordings as accurate portrayals of court discussions. In some probate and misdemeanor courts, electronic recordings are allowed, but all others require a court reporter. If a judge rules against you, a properly created court transcript is needed to appeal the decision. These transcripts are not being provided in many cases anymore, and cases cannot be delayed indefinitely. No transcript means no appeal. No appeal means serious constitutional violations. Story 18. Internet security involves both protecting our information and maintaining internet availability. Some predict that a 24-hour worldwide shutdown could be catastrophic, and this entire system is fragile. Story 19. The true American middle class. You are either upper middle class or working poor. The middle class has steadily eroded for at least 30 years. Story 20. Large power station transformers. If a few large transformers fail unexpectedly, you can expect to wait 8 to 10 months for replacements. Story 21. Topsoil is becoming severely depleted. What used to be yards deep fertile soil is now reduced to inches. It has been washed or blown away due to agriculture and irrigation. Story 22. The fourth graders run a little black market from the girls' bathroom. I'm close to catching the leader. Nothing will get past this teacher. Update. Since some have asked, they sell Pokemon cards, pencils, snacks, and even sunglasses. I love that my students are entrepreneurial, but they have been guilty of price gouging. I want them to be driven but not to be thieves. Story 23. The education system faces a critical challenge. Within the next 10 years, a large number of teachers will retire, leaving us severely understaffed. 50% of teachers quit within the first 5 years, and this rate is even higher for special education teachers. We will not have enough qualified staff to work in schools. Prepare for your children to be taught by online programs monitored by individuals responsible for 50 students at once, often without proper training. The situation will deteriorate quickly, especially in states with ineffective unions. For children with significant support needs, the outlook is uncertain. I work with this population, and currently, we are missing 2 teachers, and 3 others are working under emergency permits. This is a serious issue that continues to worsen because the pay is too low to attract professionals willing to work with these students. Recently, I was hospitalized due to a bite from a student, an incident related to his disability, who urgently requires a 2-to-1 staffing ratio. However, the district makes this nearly impossible. I barely have time to teach because I am constantly managing crises throughout the day. Story 24. The Colorado River's water levels are dropping consistently and rapidly. The Hoover Dam will eventually be unable to generate electricity. Much depends on the Colorado River, and eventually it will all fall apart. Many farms, several major cities, and tens of millions of people rely on it. They will either have to relocate or start importing water from elsewhere. Additionally, 53% of aquifers in the United States are losing water. Story 25. America's coral reef in the Florida Keys. The Keys are severely damaged. Story 26. The United States blood supply is still severely affected by coronavirus disease 2019, and the American Red Cross is accurate when stating that there is an emergency platelet shortage. If you can donate platelets, please do so. Story 27. Information technology knowledge involves several factors. Colleges tend to lag behind industry trends by several years. As a result, many recent graduates start with outdated skills. Most colleges function primarily to grant business licenses called degrees. You need this license to qualify for entry-level jobs, and institutions charge what the market will bear. Pearson VUE dominates much of the certification space, adding to costs and enforcing certification tracks aligned with government contract specifications. The expectation of graduating college into 6-figure jobs is mostly gone. Junior roles have been outsourced overseas and replaced by employees wearing multiple hats. Few middle roles remain, creating a large gap between junior and senior positions that continues to widen. Senior roles are aging out as many move into management or retire, leading to a loss of knowledge and experience. Companies reliant on technology are cutting technology costs as a cost center due to pressure for continuous value production. Consequently, more jobs are sent overseas, and maintaining senior roles becomes too costly. Aging infrastructure incurs increasing debt. Systems supporting factories, transportation, and utilities have not been upgraded in decades, and many of the experts who understood these systems are retiring or passing away. Eventually, there will be insufficient senior roles to teach younger people, resulting in significant knowledge gaps in current infrastructure and potential major failures. Although young people may be familiar with graphical user interfaces and operating devices like tablets, they often lack understanding of the underlying systems and how the internet works. Story 28. From what I understand, the internet as we know it includes critical infrastructure that is open source and maintained by volunteers. I have seen this picture quite a few times. Anyone with more knowledge about it, please elaborate. Story 29. Rancho Palos Verdes is currently under a state of emergency due to numerous landslides occurring in the area. Story 30. The red supergiant star Betelgeuse is speculated to soon undergo or have already undergone a core collapse supernova. But the light of the explosion has not yet reached Earth. When its light arrives, it will shine as brightly as a full moon for a year, casting its own shadows. The supernova's radius is just beyond harm's reach, but wild animals that use the moon for navigation at night may confuse the supernova with the moon. Scientists are concerned this could potentially disrupt ecosystems worldwide. Story 31. A construction worker told me that he warned the city about a sinkhole forming underneath a road, but they ignored him. Therefore, I avoid that road. Story 32. The United Kingdom criminal justice system. For any non-British readers, the new government has announced the early release of prisoners due to a lack of space for incoming suspects on remand and new convicts. The previous government closed about half the courts, and the remaining ones are deteriorating and understaffed. There are not enough judges, resulting in a 2-year backlog of serious cases. Junior members of the profession are so poorly paid that they have gone on strike repeatedly. Additionally, the police have essentially stopped investigating shoplifting and other minor crimes. This situation has developed after 14 years of the Law and Order Party being in power. Fortunately, the former chief prosecutor is now prime minister, offering some hope for improvement. Story 33. The Amazon. To some degree, the Amazon generates its own weather patterns with vast amounts of water evaporated into the atmosphere from leaves. Deforestation is putting it close to a tipping point where it can no longer maintain those patterns. Once reached, the feedback loop is likely irreversible. Safety tip. First dates with someone you do not already know and trust should always be in a public place with cameras, such as a coffee shop. Trust your instincts if something feels wrong. Story 34. Cardboard baler at work. It has a 3/4-inch pin that keeps the door mounted to the baler structure. Decades of use have left the pin warped, creating a visible gap at the top while the bottom remains close to its original position. The door no longer closes unless slammed shut with full force. And even then, it is uncertain whether it will close or bounce off the catching ledge at the bottom. One of these days, something will give out on that mechanism. Story 35. Healthcare in the United States. I am not talking about paying for healthcare in the United States. I think that is fixable. You can cut the costs by 30% by making it all covered by Medicare for all. I am talking about actually having enough physicians, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants to treat everyone. Burnout has gotten a lot worse in the United States. Almost every physician I know is talking about retiring within 5 years or at least cutting back dramatically. The big problems. 1. Not enough medical schools or residency programs to train physicians. My hospital needs physicians in just about all specialties. Pre-med programs remain as a weed out for medical schools, which just means we need more medical schools. We make up for the lack of them by importing physicians from other countries. We need more medical schools and to weed out a lot fewer potential graduates. Pre-med undergraduate courses include calculus, biology, chemistry, biochemistry, and organic chemistry. I am not saying any of them need to be removed. Just make enough medical schools so that they will accept B grades in these courses rather than requiring almost perfect GPAs for admission. I can guarantee that almost no physician uses any of these courses in day-to-day medical practice. If they did, it would be required in continuing medical education, which it is not. 2. Too much paperwork. Too many hoops we have to go through on a regular basis. Not just the 100+ hours of continuing education, the quarterly tests to keep our board certifications up to date, and the every 2-year basic life support and advanced life support classes we have to take. Now there is mandatory education for opioid abuse, child welfare, and other topics. Also, every 2 years there is licensing by your state medical board, Drug Enforcement Administration certification, and so on. 3. Too much competition in an area, forcing physicians to compete with each other and therefore burning out faster. It also means more duplication of effort in an area. 4. Most physicians now work for health networks or big business, which means less leniency when we need something. For example, need to take a day off? You need to put it in the calendar 3 months in advance. You want to buy a stethoscope? It counts as part of your technology purchase for the year. Yes, a stethoscope, not an electronic one, is considered technology just like a phone or computer. 5. Patients have become much more demanding and aggressive. Everyone Googles their problems and thinks they have the rarest disease. No one wants to listen to their physician's advice and just give time to see if things get better on their own. If the physician does not say exactly what the patient wants to hear, the patient complains loudly on every website and review platform so everyone else thinks the physician is incompetent. If you do not like what I say, please go elsewhere. I do not have time for misinformation and the fact that you think you are 1 in 10 million 20-year-olds who actually has a congenital cause of heart attack at your age. I see this issue every day. I sometimes comment about it and get downvoted to oblivion. Now I just sigh and move on. I will not convince people that unnecessary testing is almost certainly not going to make them better and is more likely to cause anxiety when a result is not exactly what they expected. Sorry for the rant. Just a burnt-out physician taking a couple of minutes off before getting back to work on a Sunday morning. Cut me some slack. I have been working 14 days in a row now. Most weeks are not this bad, fortunately. Story 36. Housing prices along the coast in Florida are rising. Most of the state is barely 3 feet above sea level, and flooding is worsening every year. In 50 years, the sea level will be much further inland than it is now, and no amount of beach restoration will prevent it. Story 37. The Australian economy. Digging holes and building houses will only get you so far. We have no innovation or research and development. We are in serious trouble in the coming years. Story 38. The permafrost. Locked within the permafrost is a large amount of methane, also known as methane gas, that if we start to see even more melt and release of that methane, we will get a runaway effect. We are already seeing entire villages in Alaska and Russia being destroyed from the permafrost melting underneath them. Story 39. Insect populations are collapsing, which is a problem that goes far beyond pollination. Insects are a foundational food source for reptiles, amphibians, birds, and small rodents, and their decline reverberates up the food chain. Story 40. In the future, half of humanity's power needs will be for water desalination for farming. Story 41. Everything. Just-in-time logistics means that starvation and collapse are only a few days or weeks away if the supply chain fails. Add in hoarder mentalities whenever supply starts to pick up, and the crisis extends. Coronavirus disease 2019 was an excellent example. Story 42. The company I work for is part of one of the biggest in the world, but our specific plant is very disorganized. From the number of upvotes, I suspect this is more common than an exception. Well, the grass is greener at the neighbors. Story 43. You will no longer own the vehicle you purchase. I believe that electric vehicles are the way of the future, but manufacturers of cars, trucks, tractors, and boats have been restricting access to necessary diagnostic and repair information for a couple of decades now. It will only get worse unless we fight for right to repair legislation. Story 44. The online revenue market includes not just influencers, but advertisements in general. There has never been a proven return on investment. Currently, most of it is an estimate. I was listening to a podcast where they said Ernst & Young was hired to do forensic accounting on money spent to AdWorks, and 15 cents out of every dollar just disappears. Nobody has a clue where it goes, not even Google. More and more data is being collected on real returns, and it is not lining up. Story 45. Human migration patterns will put a massive strain on various countries around the world as the environment changes. Story 46. The entire world basically runs on Microsoft Excel and facsimile machines. Everything else, information technology-wise, is just icing on the cake. Story 47. The stormwater drainage and pavement on the driveway into my community. Story 48. Our satellite systems are affected by the Kessler effect. The Kessler effect suggests that when the amount of space debris in low Earth orbit reaches a certain level, it will trigger a cascade effect in which this debris will constantly collide and break up, multiplying the amount of debris. Some believe this was already set in motion when two satellites collided in 2009, creating hundreds of thousands of pieces of debris. Additionally, collisions resulting in space debris are becoming more frequent. The implications are significant. If this debris multiplication continues unchecked, it could severely hinder future space exploration and disrupt satellite use. Story 49. Women's healthcare in conservative states. Obstetricians and gynecologists are required to train in pregnancy termination to obtain their license. They cannot do that in conservative states with abortion bans, so they simply do not practice there. The influx of patients combined with the mass exit of professionals is already increasing maternal mortality. This situation arises because some political leaders want to control women's bodies while women are sent home with ectopic pregnancies, molar pregnancies, and miscarriages. Women are sent home because hospitals want to avoid lawsuits, choosing risk over providing safe, modern healthcare. Story 50. The morgue bar in Slab City, Wisconsin, is going to collapse any day now. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.